Hello.
Hi.
How is everyone? Well, those three people are good. How's everyone else? My name's John. I like,
Personalization?
no, I do not like personalization. Look, these are my notes for today's talk, which I wrote this morning. And as opposed to writing the notes, I drew images, drawings, which are personal to me, which makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. But coming into this and being asked to do this, which was phenomenal, and thanks everyone, I got really, really depressed, which if anybody does know me, I'm a happy person. I'm like a hairy seal, and I embrace this in me. But whether it was the rain, the thunder, the hangover, looking into personalization just depressed the shit out of me. Because what I did notice about it was it's not really for the individual. It's for somebody to take your information and use it against you or to give you more of what they want to give you, which isn't nice and it isn't very good. So looking into this, I'm waiting for Sherine to contradict me, but it turns out she isn't. I am the person against personalization. She's the person for personalization.
I think personalization isn't a bad thing. I don't think it has to be like the human centipede of linear content. I think that if you can curate your own feeds and the things that come in front of you, then you actually get a beautiful, curated, personal experience. And if you think about how you go through life, which is I curate my closet, I curate my friends, I curate my feeds. If I don't like your opinion, I delete you. I think that's a pretty good way to go through.
I think curation's great. I just don't think you don't have the platform to do that when it comes to media sources. When you're looking at especially digital media, when you're looking at your feeds, everything's been pushed towards you based on your previous actions. So there's no real way to curate because you don't have anything on the opposite side. If I like the color blue on Pinterest, I'm going to see lots of color blue. Mm-hmm. And I may see complementary colors as well, to get technical. But they're going to be in the same vein. I'm not going to be seeing ultraviolet patterns or real shark skin. I'm just going to be seeing relationships around that color blue.
They do bait you. So you might see that, and I'm sure all of you guys that have been on Pinterest, and let's say you're going along your merry way pinning pictures of horses or whatever it is you want to pin, and then all of a sudden they throw in a cat, and you're like, wow, a cat and a horse, that's actually kind of cool. I think I'm going to pin more cats now. Like, they actually do bait you. Whether or not it's actually translating and creating a new experience in the process, I think is still yet to be seen. I think personalization is complicated, and it's hard to get inside the psyche and figure out what people are doing.
But I just don't think you're going to see that cat, though. I think you're going to see you're going to see those stuff around it. There was a great piece on NPR a little while ago about the personalized propaganda bubble, which was alluded to earlier in terms of the what was it? Matt came up with something at the beginning, which was fantastic. The filter bubble, where you're just seeing the things that you filtered and you see like things from that. The piece on NPR by a researcher at BetaWorks, I think, or BetaWorks, depending on what country you're in, was about the millennials in Gaza and Israel only getting the sources of information which they've liked. They're not seeing the other perspective, and they're not being able to get the other point of view. So if I'm going to be liking a lot of Fox News stuff, obviously I live in San Francisco, so that's what I do. I want to die and lynch. I'm not going to be getting the other perspective, and I can't curate my own opinion based on only having sources to me and 2 degrees away from that source that I've seen.
So this is where personalization starts veering more into customization, right? When there's a difference between the two. Personalization, that's the implicit stuff we talk about. Explicit, more about customization. So when you talk about only getting one side of news, you can change that. All you have to do is...
It's very hard to, though.
You mean in terms of the content that's being served up to you?
Yeah. I have to really go out of the way to find that content.
You mean you have to click over to
Yeah,
one
and
of
then that becomes friction, and then that friction becomes, the worst thing you want to do when you have an interaction design, because you want to make it as smooth as possible. So the idea is that if, related articles too, or it makes sense if there is your shoes, say, and you can see similar shoes to the ones you've selected. But when it comes to news sources and when it comes to forming an opinion, you're just bolstering that extremist point of view.
I mean, I wonder then, maybe we should be taking a nod from the commerce world. So if we do have cross-merchandising and you show me a pair of boots that I love, and on that model that you show me the boots on, they're like, the jeans are also this brand. And it's very quiet, and it's in the corner, just like a lot of commerce sites. Why can't we do that with news sites?
Because it's incredibly hard. And it doesn't even work when it comes to doing the shoes either.
You mean in terms of conversion in buying the shoes?
So one of our clients was Salesforce. So I was always on the Salesforce site looking at how they do their interaction and everything else. So when I would go to any other site that had any kind of cookie related to Salesforce, I would be served ads left, right, and center. I'm looking at film sites to see what the new Star Wars trailer coming up, which is fantastic. But I'm being sold Salesforce ads. Now, I don't care about that company in terms of that relationship to what I'm looking at, but I'm being told that. I mean, that type of personalization drives me crazy.
Well, it's funny, because I think some kinds of personalization are really weird. So the example I have to give is my Facebook feed. I have a friend. She's over 40. She went to go buy some NyQuil. She got carded. She wrote a Facebook post about getting carded for NyQuil. And the next time I show up, there are all these ads for NyQuil. And I'm thinking, you just combed a status that I didn't even click on or comment on or do anything about that. And now I have this information about ads on NyQuil. Now here's what's really funny. Fast forward a week later, I get a cold. And I walk into the store. What do? Pick up a thing of Advil. And I was like, great. And that was awesome. And I was able to get what I wanted then. And I thought, maybe that NyQuil thing really did work. Maybe that form of personalization did work for me.
I want to open it up to everybody else, but does anybody feel like they're not getting, I sound like a San Franciscan extremist now. Does anybody feel like they're not getting the full story or all the information they feel they can get? We have at our fingertips the brains of generations, but we probably look at about 5 or 6 websites, core ones a day, and the information that we get served on that is tailored to what we've done in the past. It doesn't really look to us and where we can be in the future. Well, it is, so the response was, that's up to us, which it is, but I think the playground that we're in is limited. It's up to us to click on certain things and do certain actions and form who we are for where we can be in the future. But we're only looking in a small sandpit of things that we can play with. Is it?
It's very difficult. That's right.
So the wonderful lady said curiosity, and that's what really breaks that mold of personalization, which it does to a certain extent, but I mean, you really have to go a long way. You have to go degrees out of where you are in a digital realm to find those other things. And you really get them if you are, especially in media, if you're switching between different viewpoints a lot.
I think you only have to work for it if you have a crappy algorithm. I really do. I think that if the thing is coded well and if you have some smart strategy behind what you're doing, we can actually serve up content really well and get people to click on through where you need to go. And I think we're seeing that more and more. Like, I think, where it gets tricky is when we start talking about the bubble, which you and I talked about earlier, that when you create these bubbles of my space, it's my bubble, and I don't really want to look at anything else, and platforms like Facebook introduce groups, and all of a sudden the feed that you had, which represented everybody in your circles, from your mom to your crazy friend from college, now all of a sudden, you start dividing everything up, right? Because you want to be able to control that. And I don't think users mind controlling stuff, because I think that like we evolve hour to hour, day to day, week to week, whatever, year to year, in terms of like what we want to see and when we want to see it. We want that kind of control. And I think that that's actually a good thing.
Well, we're getting into a whole discussion about interaction and the idea of having to manage other different experiences. And the last thing I want to do is have to manage something else in my life. I can't even manage myself, let alone Facebook. So we've reached a 5-minute mark. There's a man there who wants to ask a question with a peace sign.
Fire.
Yeah. So I can only speak from, the question was, what do you want to shout it out? Do you want to shout that out quicker? There we go.
Yeah, there we go. That's
Fontaine with the mic. And turn it on.
Are we on?
Yes.
So the point that I was trying to make is that there's a lot of economic factors at play when we talk about personalization, right? There's really big companies like Google and Taboola and Outbrain and Gravity and us at AOL and Huffington Post, because there's so much money involved in the personalization of the web, and it's often derived through advertising. So as designers and publishers, how do we get around that to make the experience better for us as consumers?
It's a great question, and I can only speak about it from the point of a consumer of this. And I strongly detest becoming a product for somebody else's gain.
You are, though.
I am.
Sorry.
I hate myself.
And thank you.
I hate my digital self, is what I meant to say.
Digital low self-esteem.
And that's the world that we live in. So there's, like the bold Italic was saying, the bold was saying that they started out with no advertising and now they've had to incorporate that. It is the nature of the world, but it doesn't mean that I have to like it.
Well, the problem is these
and
companies...
make it easier for other people to do it.
But some of these companies, frankly, there's no other way to monetize them, right? So if you look at companies like Pinterest or whatever, unless we have that kind of stuff, we can't monetize what we need to do. And that's really tricky. I mean, in a place like this, I look at Twitter, I look at Pinterest, and even Google, and the percentage of revenue they have that comes from ads versus anything else. Like, I'm floored by it, and I don't think there's any way to get around it. And the only way they can make that more successful is through personalization. But you as the users, you as the viewers, whatever, you guys have a choice. You cannot click on this stuff. You cannot do that. You can make them be smarter about it.
Yeah. Well, there's implicit and explicit, which was part of this. And I think when it's implicit, it's hard to know what choice you have.
Don't click on the NyQuil ads. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, that's true. It's time for one more question, if it's a long one.
Repeat it twice.
And how about when they actually pop up on your laptop or wherever you're navigating on, and it's just all the time, every 10 minutes? If I want to see all this much of advertise, I would just turn on my TV. And personalize is make you the product, like it's you. So where is my choice? If you just pump up constantly, where is the choice?
So I don't think me sitting here right now with the big beard is the product. I think the person, the face. I
the
think
bearded seal.
it's everybody. It's the business's view of me. It's their slice of my personality that they're looking at. They're turning that into me as a whole, which is then stereotyping me for their needs. And I'm I'm definitely not down for that.
But there are positive, I'm like such an optimist on this one. There are positive sides of personalization. If you just step out of the digital world, and I realize this is a digital conference, but just step out of that for a second. And think about the last time that you had an analog experience that was actually quite personal. For me, it was, I had a delayed flight into New York, and I got to the hotel really late, and guess what? There's a beautiful welcome note there, written by hand to me, saying they're sorry to hear my flight was late. P.S. They left me cookies, and that was really nice. And that's when you have one of those moments where that's personalization.
Okay, she's won me over. I love that I love cookies. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a good rest of the conference.
Thanks, you guys.